Good evening and welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Joshua Solomon. I am back from my, what were you calling it? A secret mission?
Yeah, in space.
In space?
Yeah,
I don't recall being in space.
Space shot that went up, you know, and they had they got you back to Earth.
They're still stuck up there.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later if you want to.
I'm glad he's back, by the way. So. I didn't say that last time, but this time I'll say it.
As always, my faithful sidekick and co-host, the Honorable J.P. Marzullo. You did a good job holding down the fort while I was gone. Thank you, J.P.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And as always, Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades is sponsored by the Wilson Hill Pistol Club, 1732 Lakeshore Road, right here in Manchester, New Hampshire. It is the oldest sports shooting club in the state. Open membership. You can visit us at wilsonhillpistol.org, and our membership meeting is the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. and it's open to all. JP, who are we talking with today?
Well, we're fortunate to have the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Stephen Smith. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for remembering my name. That was awesome.
It happens once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while I remember them. Yeah, occasionally. I couldn't remember the people last time, but I got this one down.
Okay. All right.
So first thing I wanted to do, Stephen, was to tell the people what areas you represent and what does the Deputy Speaker do?
Oh. How long is the show?
An hour. You got plenty of time.
I'll come back. I'm from Sullivan County, the second least populous county in the state. And believe it or not, there is a New Hampshire west of Route 9. I know a lot of people over here don't believe that, but it's not just trees and then Vermont. And I represent the towns of Newport, Unity, and Charlestown out in Sullivan County. And the Deputy Speaker, what do I do? When the Speaker has to go to the bathroom, I preside over the House. So I got that going for me, which is nice.
That's good. That's great.
Honestly, sometimes he has meetings to get to. He gets called out, so I get to preside over the House, which is an incredible honor that somebody who's nobody from nowhere gets to stand up in that historic chamber and do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of admin stuff. We deal with facilities, personnel issues, concierge service for members. They come in and want to know, where do I get this information? Who do I go to for that? So it's a busy office.
Yeah, it really is. And how many terms have you served now?
Well, I got elected in 2010, 14 years, so 7.
Nice, nice. And I assume you're running again?
I am.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's worthwhile, and our part of the state usually doesn't get someone in this type of leadership position,
right?
Which does help get attention on issues. So yeah, I would not want to give it up. It hasn't happened in a long time. I think you have to go back to the 80s to find a speaker from my area.
Wow, that's impressive.
So
yeah, I mean, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the help you were able to give me when I was there, and that you continue to give new people that come in. Because that's very key. People don't understand that. You go and you have no knowledge of how things work. And so you always need a mentor. And Stephen's done a great job with that.
One of the things that's nice about this position is last term was the first term I finished as Deputy Speaker, and I became the chairman of the Orientation Committee.
Oh, nice.
So I actually got to, I know what they're lacking, here's what I need us to do.
Great.
And actually oversaw the whole orientation process.
That had to be fun in a way.
It was rewarding for the ones that came up and said, thank you. I didn't know any of this.
Right.
And then there's ones where you go, how did I fail them?
So that's the orientation committee, and that kind of goes along with the duties of the deputy speaker and whatnot. But as deputy speaker and/or speaker, do you serve on committees, or do you just assign people to committees?
We serve on the rules committee.
Okay.
Many of us, it's a small one, but serve on the facilities committee, approve pay raises, things like that. I finally got off of that one this time, so that was nice. not my favorite. And then we form ad hoc committees. Right now we have a working group to see if we can make the processes better for next year. As you remember, JP, some committees just get carpet bombed with bills.
Yes.
You process them all in 90 days, essentially. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at ways to make that better. Also considering committee membership, there is no number. There's a maximum. And the speaker is allowed to appoint as many people to each committee as he likes. Up to that number, it's 26 for finance and I think 21 for regular committees. But we thought about bringing that down. We have more working people now. And
in the State House.
Yeah. And some of them have expressed a desire to not serve on any committees, because that's where your real time commitment is, not session days.
Right, right.
So we're looking at that.
So what we've talked about a lot of people, and they do talk about all the committees that they serve on. Some of them serve on 3 or 4 committees. I mean, that's a full-time job.
It is.
For someone who's not making any money. Mm-hmm. But then there are, you hear about folks, and we've talked to folks who essentially don't want to be on a committee, like you said. And so are these are just representatives who want to show up to vote. Right. So what other duties does a representative like that? Is that frowned upon, that you don't serve on a committee?
There's not much we can do about it, first of all, so I'm kind of Machiavellian about that.
Sure.
It happens. Honestly, too, on both sides, recruiters lie a lot. I don't want to run. You realize we're dragging a net through the state to find 400 people crazy enough to do this for $100.
Right.
By the way, sadly, we succeed. But so that's, what's the time commitment? Because I have a life or I have a job. And they go, don't worry about it. It's session days. It's some Thursdays, January through June. It'll be fine. And then they find out that they're also a member of their county delegation and have to go to those meetings and run the county government.
Yep.
And they also get assigned to a committee, and that's another day out of the week. Depends on the committee. Fish and Game, first year, I think they had 1 bill. So not a heavy lift. Education, 100 bills. Commerce, 100 bills. So the committee you get on really matters.
Yeah, I was on a Veterans Committee, and we didn't have a lot of bills.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No, it wasn't a heavy lift, but they were important bills. And the nice thing is now I think you can see them online. I think every committee meeting now is online, correct?
Absolutely.
So you could look at the testimonies there when people come in to give testimonies, and you'll at least keep track of what's going on, and then come to vote. So in some ways you've done your duty in some ways.
You can inform yourself, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it just seems like I mean, there's a lot to do, right? We think about, when we think about legislature, a lot of people think about Congress. Think about what we hear in D.C., and they're working year round. They're always in session. They're always in hearings. That's what we hear about a lot. It's not really committee meetings. They're hearings. These investigations that they're always doing. But you guys don't do that. You have your committees where you're debating bills and you're hearing testimony on bills.
Yes.
So there's, I guess if I elect somebody to the legislature, I expect them to do so much for me as my representative. And so I don't know how I feel about folks who don't serve on committees or delivery. I guess that's okay, but I would still want my representative, instead of just showing up and being a vote, I would still want my representative to show up and at least voice an opinion on certain important bills.
Well,
And
we
does
left
that
out,
only take place during session?
no, and we left out the other part of the job, constituent service. When people say, I'm having this trouble navigating a state agency, can you help me?
Yep.
Or I became inspection guy somehow, like for the entire freaking state. But my
Car
bad for not
inspection.
saying no. Yeah. So
Right.
my shop said I failed for this, but then I read this in the law, and they can't do that, can they? So then I had to call DMV, have DMV call the shop, and then straighten that out. A lot of times they'll work by rules which don't keep up with the statute.
Right.
So one thing we've been doing is moving some of those things from rules into statute. If we just make it the law, the rules are now irrelevant.
Right.
I actually did that with rust. That was one of our biggest problems, and I was so happy to get that bill through. You have the right to drive an ugly vehicle. It doesn't
Right.
have to be pretty. And where we ended up was never what was intended. Like, you got holes in your rocker panels, you fail. You can take the rocker panel off of most cars, and it is perfectly safe. So I was like, get yourself a Sawzall.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, but I went to a state that isn't really known for defending freedom, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And in Pennsylvania's DOT laws, because that's how they do it, not Department of Safety like us,
Right.
they had a really sensible rust statute, and we adopted that and put it in the statutes, so now they can't argue anymore, and they can't change it, and it's just, it is the law. Anybody who doesn't like it, file a bill. So if you got a hole that's letting exhaust gas into the passenger, but yes, fail. Something's going to fall off of the car, yes, fail. You got a pinhole in your front fender, nobody cares.
Right.
A hole in a rocker panel, nobody cares. And a
Yeah.
hole in your pickup
Well, that was
bed,
a big thing.
nobody
right?
cares.
My thing with state inspections, I understand the safety aspect of it, right? Beyond that, I really I have a problem with it in general, right? Because there are so many things that can be wrong with a vehicle that aren't safety issues.
Yep.
And I feel like mechanics, and I'm not dissing mechanics here, but I feel like mechanics would prefer a more stringent inspection process, because they get to say, okay, you fail and you need to come back to me, and I'm going to charge you $2,000 for this work, right? It feels like they're lead prospecting, right? They're prospecting for customers by failing cars for rocker panel rust,
It
right?
can happen.
And that was a big thing, right? Rocker panel.
Yes.
I mean, I've had trucks with, like, you're absolutely right. You can cut that rocker panel off, and
That's a pretty piece.
it's really just a
That's all it does.
visibility, right? It's a thin sheet of metal that covers the frame. It's not a problem,
Yeah.
but people are failing for it, and they have to hire a welder, you know, a skilled welder, which is not
Right.
inexpensive. So
I'm going to defend the shops a little bit. Yeah, there are some that do that, absolutely.
yeah, no.
You go in
That's
for an oil change
just
and they're gonna
it.
tell
But I
you,
also
hey,
feel
ball
like they
joints are gonna
lobby
fall out.
for it
Right.
more than folks lobby to say, hey, you know, let's, you know, an oxygen sensor is not going to kill the safety of this car.
Yeah,
Right.
oh well, that's emissions, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah, that's
I hate the OBD inspection portion because you're right. I had I remember the vehicle, a 2003 Jeep Liberty, was throwing a code for a clutch malfunction. It was an automatic, okay? And it runs fine. I don't care, but I had to go through this whole thing to get that taken care of. So I'd like to repeal the whole emissions thing. The problem is it's money. It's expensive.
Well, exactly.
So we have a lot of repeals bill come through, and now I'm going to beat up the reps that file them. They don't go on the hook for the money. They're like,
Right.
fine, we're going to lose all this federal money if we get rid of it. I am with you. I want to get rid of the program. Now man up and tell me where you're getting the money for it. And they don't, finance will take care of it. No, finance will kill the bill.
That
and they should.
goes to this business where we're addicted to the money, right? If we're going to lose the money by repealing this and having something better, then do we really need the money? And you're absolutely right. You know, there's money involved, and that's the opposite of what JP and I talked about in the past. People
Yeah.
put up these bills, and a new bill costs money. It costs, you need a new state agency, you need new employees to enforce these new bills and whatnot. And so there's a financial aspect to almost everything that comes through, and it costs us more money. We have to generate that more money. So we have licensing fees. We have,
Or you figure out how you can do without it.
But that's the exact. That's what I'm saying is so. Okay, so now if we're going to kill the emissions, then can we do without that money? Can we do without that federal money? I always say yes. Federal money always comes with a hook in it, and I don't like it. So
we can almost always do without the money, but we never get that complete bill.
Right.
And OBD can be it can be cheated. So
that should be changed to be straight up emissions, not all this other wacky stuff that goes into it. And the process of getting any of that changed is really difficult. There's one vendor for all of that. People don't like that, but they're actually also the only ones that bid. Mm-hmm. So you got that. But if we don't like what's happening with the code failures, you have to talk to them. They have to talk to the software company. The software company has to push the changes. It's a nightmare.
And it's just getting even worse and worse and worse, right? I mean, every vehicle on the road today, every new model year comes out with another piece of software attached to it, another piece of software attached to it. And so everything is computerized. It's almost, that is the major portion of the inspection now, is the OBD, right? The OBD2.
Yeah, should be checking brakes, lights, ball joints, tie rod ends, things like that. Stuff that will kill you.
Really, that's it, right? Because if you go back to the 1970s, you take my dad's 1973 Impala, there's no computers, there's no OBD. It's exactly what you said. It's tires, brakes, ball joints, suspension, and turn signals, lights. And it's considered safe, right? Emissions just throws a wrench into the whole thing. Besides, I can take an oxygen sensor and I can back it off 2 screws and it will. I shouldn't say that. I'm not teaching you guys how to get over the oxygen sensor code.
That's just between us, though, so don't tell anybody.
It's a secret. Don't tell anybody else.
I don't know if it's true, but I heard this fantasy rumor that if you know what the drive cycle is on the car for everything to reset.
Oh, yes.
And you reset the codes and drive about 90% of that and then get it down to the shop quick, you're probably good to go.
Yep.
Yep. It can't possibly work, though, and I would never tell anyone to try that.
Exactly. Well, I think, the new vehicles make it tough on the local garages, though. I mean, these guys are putting a lot of money into computers to be able to read the computer or to be able to fix your vehicle. And we had a bill where they were trying to get
the right to repair and having your local shop being able to do it instead of having to go to the dealership.
Yeah, and we had a bill come up, or at least I recall we had something come up that dealt with that.
We keep trying.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got it passed. But
it's a little tough to do within the state because so the biggest manufacturer that people are cranked about is actually John Deere.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super invasive
they're losing
software.
they're losing the war on that one. So.
They are. Well, and because they can disable your equipment remotely, and if you go someplace else and somebody tinkers with it, done. Did I buy this thing or not? I'm not leasing it.
Right. Do I own it? It's mine. Right. Everything in it is mine. But yeah. So there's that. It's that whole right to repair. Right. So I had a minor thing done, and it was a warranty item done at one of the dealerships on South Willow, right? So that covers basically every model of car. So I'm being anonymous here. While I was there, I was watching the displays on the wall, and they were rotating through specials, right? And one of the specials was new brakes and rotors. It was $990.
No.
For new brakes and rotors.
That was the special.
That was the special, right?
Is that for 4?
Yes. But here's the thing. I do my own work, right, if it's not warranty work, right? I can swap out an engine and whatnot. I mean, I write software for a living, but I do this for my own vehicles. I did all my brakes, all my rotors for under $250. right? Now, if I were a mechanic and I was charging $75 an hour, $100 and $150 an hour,
Yep.
it would still come in under the special of $950.
Sure.
Right? The parts alone only come out to a couple $100.
It's
And
like-
I'm not talking about the low-end parts. I'd go to the auto parts store and I buy the highest premium parts that they have. And that's what's on my vehicle, but it still costs me a quarter of what the dealership wanted to charge me. Now, I'm sure it wouldn't have cost anywhere near that much if I went to my local mechanic,
Right.
but it would still be more than what I would do as myself. But still, being forced to go to the dealer is a problem. And
It is. That's why I drive old cars.
you got John Deere was doing it. There's a train company in Europe that did it. Did we talk about this
I
before?
don't know. I don't think so, no.
So there's a train company in Europe. They sell locomotives to all the high-speed rails in Europe, right? And train is a big a passenger train is a big way of getting around. Well, this dealer got caught. They sold the train, brand new high-tech train, and the company that owned the train, the line, they had their own shops. And so when it was due for maintenance, they pulled the locomotive into their own shop, and the whole thing died. Completely died. So they pull out the diagnostics, won't start. They can't get this engine to start. And there is nothing mechanically wrong with this thing. It just won't start due to a software issue.
Yeah.
So they hired a hacker group, software hacker group, to hack into the software of their locomotive that they own, completely paid for, in their own shop, and they started it back up. But in starting it back up, they found the source code that indicated why this engine stopped. The manufacturer of the facility took the geolocation, the coordinates of every locomotive engine shop in Europe and put it into their software. And they put in a note there that says, okay, if the train is parked in one of these locations for more than 24 hours or 48 hours, then we shut it down. And we force them to drag the engine to our shop so that we can restart it. It was actually, they actually programmed it so that they could have no competition, right? And they can just shut your train down because you pull it into your own garage, right? And who knows? Chevy, Ford, Toyota, they could do the same thing. They could say, okay, if you're not doing a repair in one of our dealership shops, we'll just have the software shut you down. And that's the danger of software. But that's but they got caught and they got sued, and they started out by trying to sue them for hacking into their software. And they said, no. Doesn't work that way. So anyway.
Whose software was it?
Well, that's
I don't mean the company.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that people
Who owns
don't
the software?
do,
Right,
So
software.
they bought the locomotive, but did they buy the software?
Exactly.
So end user license agreements, that's the thing that 99% of people, when they want to do something on the internet and they get the pop-up boxes, and scroll to the bottom and click OK, that's what they do. They don't read it.
Yep.
What did you just agree to?
Right.
Well, a lot of times you've just given away a lot of things. And I wonder if this case works that way, if they bury into the language.
That's how they did it, but it was definitely nefarious code. This hacker group basically took the code out and reflashed all of the engines and said, okay, this is our code now.
And the train works now.
And the trains
There
now
you go.
work and can be serviced by folks other than the dealers. So anyway, that's
You know there's cars now that
an egregious right to repair, and that's essentially what John Deere's doing too. But the right to repair is kind of kicking John Deere in the butt right now because it's making its way through the system. And in fact, I think SCOTUS already ruled on it.
So there are a lot of cars now that if they can hit a Wi-Fi connection, will update their software overnight while they're parked. I want my car to be the same in the morning as when I parked it. I don't want new things to happen.
Right, exactly, exactly.
When
So
my
I
car
wanna-
does new things tomorrow, I have to fix it. That's what's going on.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about parents' rights because that seems to be It is. It doesn't seem to be. It is a big issue that that we're fighting for. We've had several guests on talking about that, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about it and what you think. Where do you think we are in the process right now?
Not far enough.
We've got a couple of bills that have come through. We're past crossover, right?
Yes.
So what has passed? What hasn't passed?
That we didn't get any of the big ones done.
No.
And crossover, we're all done. The legislature's not in session now.
Yep.
Right. So we're waiting for signatures and we're waiting for veto day, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But I don't know. This is a hard one for me because I'm usually good at looking at both sides of an issue.
Yep.
And this one I have a lot of trouble seeing the opposite side, where you want some people in a building somewhere to have more input to how your child's raised than you do. I don't understand that myself. One of the things I do when I go out and talk to people who think it's a good idea for government to do something, I go, oh, I should? What do you mean? I said, you just said it's a good idea for government to do that, so I should. Like, what do you mean? I said, the government's not a thing. It's a room full of people, and I'm one of them. And are you telling me that I should have more of a say in how your children are raised than you do? Or what you do in your own backyard? Or how hard it is to register your car? Or any of these things? I should be the one to teach your family values, not you? And they're like, well, of course not. Okay. Now tell me again why you're supporting this idea that parents shouldn't be informed of what their kids are being led into at school. And they usually don't have an answer, and I hope that I've persuaded a couple.
Do these people have children?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's not a parent on the planet who wants someone else having more control over their children than they do. Unless it is that they think that they're on the same side as the school and they want control over everyone else's children.
That's what it feels like to me. We do it this way. Everybody else.
I want everybody to do it that way.
And the problem with it is, you used to be able to have a discussion about it, but now we live in the age of demonization, where if you do this, you're attacking. It's an attack on. They always say attack, or we had somebody say, well, you can't have the schools out their trans or gay kids to the parents, quoting, because they will beat them to death.
And do we have any evidence of such a...
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Are they going to beat the kid at all? I don't know. And you know what? When I was in school, we got beat for bad report cards, but nobody said we should repeal those.
Right, exactly.
So...
Well, now, there are some rules coming through the teachers union, and there are some places out on the left coast that are saying that they do want to get rid of standardized testing and report cards because they are racist, and certain cultures end up with lower reports for some reason.
My response is words I can't say on this show.
But we're all thinking them, so we know what we're...
I worked hard. I wasn't the best by any stretch of the imagination, but you know what? I won some crap, and it's mine, and I never got a participation trophy, and I would have been insulted if anybody ever handed me one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where are the people like J.C. Watts when we need them?
J.C.
You remember
the man,
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What did he call the race-hustling poverty pimps?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he basically objected to the idea that anybody said, wow, you've achieved a lot for a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And
for a black man.
Hell no, I've achieved a lot for a man,
exactly.
Period. And he hated the idea of the asterisk, and we need more of that.
Right, there's always that like, you don't need to quantify it any more than you've achieved a lot. Or, and this idea that we don't hire based on merit anymore, we base on equity.
Yeah, DEI programs.
Right, we've got equal opportunity is the law. Equal opportunity,
yes.
Not equity. But equal opportunity is the law, not equity.
Say that on the federal agency.
Well, I mean, if I'm being operated on, I don't want somebody that's there because they were putting the DEI program for equal opportunity. I mean, I want the best person there. I don't care what color they are, what nationality they are. I want the best person in there, and I can't imagine anyone not wanting that. So they talk about it because it's a good talking point for them, but I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it's like when it stopped happening since Boeing has had all of their troubles. It stopped being a thing.
Off.
But
A door fell off.
Prior to all of these issues, I mean, 10 or 15 wheels have fallen off. One of them 2 days ago. It just keeps happening off a Boeing 747 or
737, I think.
737.
Is it the max?
But in any case, before all of that was happening, every airline out there, United, Southwest, oh, this is our most diverse crew yet, an all-woman, all-black crew. Like, that is great. It really is great. But God help us if they aren't actually the best ones for the job. Right? Like, you can celebrate diversity as long as when you do, the people that are there are the best ones for the job, because, you know, we've said it before. We've talked about Boeing and all their problems. Something big is going to happen, and it's not going to be good. Right now, Boeing's got a spaceship in space that was supposed to be there for 7 days. It's been 35, 38 days, something like that. And
yeah,
there's no end in sight. Oh,
Yeah,
today
doors
was
fell off though, right?
Today was 5 thrusters.
Yeah, today they talked about it.
I didn't.
They were trying to get the time frame, how much longer they were going to be there, and they really didn't have an
Still
answer.
no time frame.
Yeah.
So
it's not like we'll be back next week.
So
It's like,
I got to tell you, this is not like the 60s where the astronauts had implicit trust in their engineers. If I was an astronaut at this point, after all that's been going on with Boeing taking settlements for all of their safety violations and everything falling apart, and now they launched me into space knowing that there were hydrogen leaks, or helium leaks, and then 5 thrusters fail on approach to the station, and we had to retry it twice. I'm the astronaut in the space station. Say, there's a Dragon capsule right over there that's tried and true and proven. I'm taking that one home.
Exactly.
Seriously.
But to Stephen's point, you talk to a lot of parents, I would think, right? I mean, when you're out knocking doors or something, but you're talking to people.
I don't knock doors.
You don't have to anymore.
I could never knock doors.
Where you are.
Like Judy, you know Judy.
Yes.
Judy Aaron. She's so friendly. She's cute. She's nice. Everybody loves her. And she can knock doors. I show up at your house on a Saturday morning.
At 6 o'clock in the morning.
And then look at me, and you want to know if I am the police or if you need the police. So it doesn't work. I'm not like that. She'll bring you cookies. If I show up with cookies, people are going to call the police. No, I hang out at the dump.
Yeah, that's great.
I go places, and I do talk to people.
So what are you, I mean, are you feeling that it's just Republican parents that want to fight for this, parents' rights, or do you think it crosses both sides?
I hope it crosses both sides. And again, it's like a very specific issue that I don't get, because some people raise their kids Catholic or Protestant or Jewish or Muslim, and nobody cares. That's fine, because it's your family. You do that.
Right.
Some people raise their kids to be polite or dress for dinner at the table or something like that, and that's fine. Nobody cares about that. But then when we get into this cultural stuff, no, you're not allowed to have any input into your kid. As a matter of fact, we don't even want you to talk to them about it.
Yep.
I don't understand any
and we'll
argument
take
that
them
says
away
don't talk.
if you do.
Well, that's the point it's reached in California.
Yep.
Taking the kids away. I can't imagine they would have to. There'd be a fight if they tried that.
What boggles my mind is that the argument isn't over education. It's not over religion. The argument is over adult topics, sexual topics. That's what the argument is over. The children shouldn't even be exposed to it. And I've said it time and time again. I don't care what your views on the subject are, as long as you stop sexualizing the children. Children don't even need to know that these things exist. As responsible adults, we shield our children from these types of political discourse.
And
like,
how about a more basic
it's
point,
always
too?
an adult topic that they want to indoctrinate the children into this adult topic.
But it's not what the kids are there for, right? They're there to learn math,
Exactly.
science, English. You got the skills they need to move on to be successful in life. Everybody happy with how your school's doing? Some do great, many do not. And I always thought that when you don't have time to get your job done, don't do extra stuff. And for me, this is all extra stuff. It's not the school's job.
Right.
So when the test scores are up and the graduation rates are doing great and the kids are getting jobs that they wanted because they were successful and got the tools they needed, and they want to talk about some extracurricular stuff, then, I don't know, maybe we'll have the conversation. This wouldn't be the one. But until then, I don't want them to do anything other than provide those tools for the kids, like, period. If they have extra time, maybe teach them how to balance checkbooks, how online accounts work, things like that.
Yep.
But no, don't get into all the social stuff. It's not their job.
Yeah. If the weird guy next door were trying to talk to my children about gay and lesbian sex and transgender things, I would have him arrested. Yet we're going to allow teachers to do the same thing.
And provide protections for them when they do it.
Exactly. No. Again, if it was the guy next door, he'd be under arrest. But because it's a teacher, it's okay. And we had another female teacher, what state was it in? She's 29 years old.
Took her young.
Married 2 kids, having a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old 8th grader. Special needs 8th grader. So she's in jail. That was 2 days ago. That wasn't yesterday. It was 2 days ago I read that article. It's just the schools and the teachers, they have this obsession with sexualizing our children, and that's the part that just needs to stop completely.
And the worst part
any
is,
of those types of discussions, I don't disagree with you. They should be extra, right? Get rid of all, fulfill all of your other obligations as a school. But anything with a sexual nature, if at all it was ever going to be in a school, it would have to be in a high school. You gotta have these discussions with teenagers and above, not with these 8 and 10 and 11-year-olds, which is what they're pushing for.
Right?
Always with parental consent. I remember sex education in school. I think it was 10 years old. I think it was 6th grade, and they were very adamant. Everybody had to have a slip. Everybody had to have parental consent, and people were sent off to another classroom if they didn't. Right? It wasn't forced on them, and because of the age involved, everybody had to have consent, and they're not doing that anymore. And I think the law is that you still have to have consent to show specific materials related to sexual education, but schools aren't obtaining that consent anymore.
So it's like the next step of biological men competing in women's sports. Why is that happening, and why is it okay?
We're starting to back off on that. People are starting to wake up on that.
I think we have. Did the governor sign that yet?
No, he hasn't.
For safety
He's
and
sitting on them.
Yeah.
Taking heat. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I don't mean to insult you, but you're old enough to remember this, and I know you are. The East German women in the Olympics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
could
that's
bench
true.
press meat and a truck, and it was a big deal, right?
Yes.
Because forget the social stuff. We're supposed to trust the science, right? So, well, okay, do it. Let's trust the science. When they're shot up with testosterone and everything else, they are stronger and faster, and that's why they got thrown the heck out, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So let's just get guys in who don't have to shoot up with testosterone because they have it on board.
Right.
Like, how can you reconcile those two things? Anybody that says trust the science on one thing, I expect them to be on my side on this.
Sure.
And I don't care what you identify as a unicorn Subaru Forester. I don't care. Whatever your biology is, that's what you should compete in because it matters.
Yeah, and I think it's got a lot of traction now where we're starting to put, like the Olympics. The biological male
they're
that
putting the brakes
won
on
swimming races all over the place. He can't compete. He can compete as a male.
Yes.
But he can't compete as a female.
But they don't want to. It's like
because they can't compete as a male is a problem. So.
Exactly. You're right.
European Swimming Association created a category for transgender. You can compete as a female, you can compete as a male, and you can compete as a transgender. Guess which category had 0 signups? And it's because these biological males do not want to compete against biological males.
No, absolutely not.
This is an ego thing. This is a male dominance thing. That's what it is they want to compete against women because they know that they can beat them up over it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you give them say, hey, yeah, fine, compete. No, they won't compete because they do not want to compete against other biological males.
I've been in a lot of different competitions, and the easy wins were never good. They just don't taste good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like racing. I had the best car all day. Nobody was going to touch me.
But
you know
this
what?
whole
12
thing,
other people could have driven this thing and gotten the same result.
But these individuals, we're not accusing them of being mentally healthy, right? This is not something that common sense does not is not afforded in these people's brains, and it really is a mental health issue for these individuals.
Yeah, you can ask JP. Nobody's ever accused me of being mentally healthy.
Well, there's different levels.
I didn't even run for state representative on purpose, and here I am 14 years later.
Yeah,
I was a failed recruiter.
What do you mean I was elected to office?
That literally happened. So it was like a 60-40 Democrat seat. They asked me to help recruit because I made bad life choices and got involved in some other campaigns. And I'm like, fine, I'll help. And nobody's taken. No Republican wants this. And then finally, the conversation starts to come around to, yeah, well, you're out here. Why don't you do it? Like, oh, damn it. Because I'm not a guy that will ask other people to stand up when I'm not willing to do it myself. I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. I'm the guy. And I bought my signs, and I got my butt kicked like everybody else in 2008 who was a Republican. But a bad life choice. Now I'm the guy. Nobody else will do it. Like, whatever, I already got the signs. So 2010, I put them out. I went to bed at the end of the day, right? At 7 o'clock, polls closed, I'm exhausted. Ate dinner, went to bed. My wife wakes me up the next morning and goes, we have a problem. I'm like, what? She goes, well, you won. Oh.
Now
okay. What? Right? Awkward conversation with my employer. I had a full-time job then. And 14 years ago, and somehow now I'm the deputy speaker because I was standing in the right place at the right time. Again. So none of it was on purpose.
Yeah. But that's how, you know, they kind of weed out the other people and those who want to fight. I mean, you know, I mean, I was a write-in candidate for my town for trustee of the trust funds 3 years ago. I didn't even know. I got a call from the town clerk, and she said,
"You don't even have to register."
She said to me, "I just want to let you know that, you know, you were elected to the trustee of the trust funds." And I said, "I never ran." And she said, "No, but you beat the guy by 70 votes." And I said, "Wait a minute. The guy ran. People voted for him. I'm not running. I'm not taking this." She says, "You have to take it." I said, "I really don't have to take it, but I will." But you know, they kind of drag you back in again. But to your point, though, and I'd like to make this point, is that if you're good at what you do and people trust your word, you're going to keep getting elected over and over again. And it's about integrity. And you said something to us while we were waiting to go on. It is humbling to be in the State House. It's humbling to be in Reps Hall and look around. Oh. It's incredible. And I said this once before, and I mean, and I'll say it again, is if you don't feel that way, you probably shouldn't be there.
I have said those words to people. If they walk in there, General Lafayette has stood in that room 99 years ago. Maybe where my seat is, who knows? He stood in the room. If you don't feel that history, no, it's not for you.
Yeah,
because it takes that kind of reverence to be able to get along with the other people and actually do something.
Yeah, to get something done too. Yeah. It's not the easiest thing to do when you have only 2 votes in favor of your party, and that was a struggle, I'm sure, this year. But I want to get back to finding out what bills are sitting on the governor's desk right now that we can help go the right way.
Oh, it's hard to keep track of, honestly.
There's a lot of them right now.
Right. The flow this time today, the speaker and I did 2 recess sessions for reading and rolled bill amendments. That's where the bill had a technical problem, or they had to merge House and Senate.
Right.
We move those. He signs them. They go to the Senate. They do the same thing, and then finally, I didn't count them. The stack was this high.
Really?
Yeah. I know the governor has the election law bill.
Oh, right.
Right, and he just got cautioned that if he signs it now, it affects this election.
Yep.
That might be too close. And also, when people want to challenge election laws, any that are done within 60 days of an upcoming election, that has been deemed by the Supremes too soon. It's disruptive, could result in disenfranchising voters, and it's easy to overturn them. So I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So what is this election law? Are we doing something good, like saying we need voter ID and you have to be a citizen of the United States?
Yeah, this one, I think it got rid of the affidavits.
Right.
Like you actually have to prove your ID. You can do.
But you have to have an ID.
We've had that law for a while,
Yep.
except that when you forget.
You signed a
an
waiver.
affidavit.
Yeah.
And then you vote.
I had somebody yelling at me.
And then you
'cause
have
he knew
to
I
come
voted
back
for
at
that.
it, yeah.
And so the guy pulls up, gets out of his car, goes in, comes back out and goes, I have to go home now because of you. I don't have my ID. I can't vote. I'm like, dude, you just drove here. You didn't have your license on you?
I don't get it. It's like when you're watching Live PD, right? And
Live
it's
PD.
Pinellas County, Florida. Nobody in Pinellas County, Florida has a driver's license on them. Oh, I left it at home.
Right.
Like, who leaves the house without an ID? I haven't left the house without an ID since I was 15 years old.
Remember back in the old days? You got to have your ID and $1 in your pocket or you're a vagrant.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's some tough things that still have to get done.
Yeah, he's got those. He's got 3 of the transgender bills that he's sitting on. I think he was doing some press about that today. Well,
he doesn't have
receiving
to worry
incoming.
about re-election. He needs to sign all the good ones and not worry about the fallout.
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, when we were in the minority, he vetoed every single bill that we had to push the red button for,
Yeah.
right? That we voted against, and I came in with this big.
That was a lot.
Yeah, we gave him cases of red
This
pens.
is his last chance to do all the right things.
He does. I can see the point on the election law one, though. What you never want to do is pass an election law that you really want and get it flipped, because you're not going to be able to fix that easily
Yeah.
afterwards.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
no, I definitely
So I
agree
can
with
see that one both ways.
But we got a 60-day window here. He needs to get his people on it and get the lawyers on it and say, okay, this is not going to get flipped, right? We need to. Hopefully, he's doing that type of due diligence.
Yeah, see what happens. He's been good about, okay, I'll just say it, asking us about things he'd like vetoed because he understands the makeup of the legislature, and we may be in the majority in the morning and in the minority in the afternoon, and
right,
things happen, they get through.
Yep.
Well, yeah, we've had a few things that came through this year that were like, I hope he's got his veto pen out for this. There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
But one of them's a parental rights thing,
Yeah, it
wasn't
was.
Yeah. So hopefully.
I don't know how his calculus works on that. He's also a smarter politician than I am.
He pretty much is for all of us, really.
Right?
He's,
It doesn't matter what the tides are. He can get
Yep.
better than 60% of the people who vote for him.
And I think the thing that's interesting is he can see both sides. And I think that's important when you're there. You have to be able to understand both sides, and then you're going to vote your core value anyway.
Yep.
But at least you're going to listen. You may not, and as Gary would say too, it's very seldom that you change your mind when there's an argument on the floor, when there's a debate.
I miss
Very
the days
seldom.
when they did. It did happen.
you mean-
I
okay.
miss the days when they did change their minds on the floor. It made session more exciting.
Oh, yeah.
It made floor fights matter.
Yeah.
Now it's like, wow, okay, they're done. Wow, okay, they're done. And then the vote is
You
the
don't
same.
have enough
Everybody
people
wants
like
to-
Gary who walk in and say, hey, how are you voting on this? Or how should I vote on this? Right? And
Yeah.
start having that discussion.
Yeah.
And Gary would have those discussions on both sides. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, and then like stop with the buzzwords. The minute somebody gets up to speak against a bill and says, this is an assault on, I'm out.
Yep.
I don't care what comes after that.
no,
Yeah.
I have the same
Yeah.
the same problem in the business world, right? Anytime I'm in a meeting and someone starts talking and all the buzzwords come out,
Yeah.
okay, and all the industry buzzwords like did you are we playing buzzword bingo? Because it's
Did you ever?
yes.
We did
yes,
literally.
We did. No, we
Or for
literally
drinks,
did it
or
too.
drinks, yeah.
Like, oh, okay. The CEO used that
No, we
word.
had no
Okay, and
sheets.
that word. Yeah, we had sheets. But anytime I start hearing all of the buzzwords and all the acronyms, I'm like, this meeting's going nowhere. I've always said meetings are where work goes to die.
Oh,
And so it's
acronyms.
the same. Acronyms
I
are just
fixed that at a company that I
big
worked
problem for me.
at. They would try to show everyone how much they knew by speaking only in the acronyms. You have to know what that means. So I did a presentation. I got up. I spoke for 15 minutes and made up everything I said. Yeah, so we ran the LCQ test on the APRNs, and I got to tell you, the results were not good. As a matter of fact, the FTRVs, I mean, have you looked at those charts? And they're all like, yeah, no, you haven't. I just made it up. I don't even know what I just said.
Starting to sound like President Biden.
I mean, every once in a while,
And then I told them after the meeting, as it ended, what I just did to them, and they're like, we won't use acronyms anymore.
yeah, I don't. I really hate acronyms, but anyway, it permeates all industries, and
Yeah, it does.
I understand when you hear somebody on the floor start coming through the buzzwords and the acronyms, that's when you're like, okay, those are all the talking points that the DNC put out last week.
Yeah, well,
and
our
we've
guys
heard it
do it
on
too.
all the media. Yeah. Oh no, it works. It works all the way. But I don't buy into it. I stopped listening at that point.
I think the thing that's important for the viewers and the average person is not to say it's House Bill 2316. They want to know what it means. They have no, that would drive me nuts too. The first year I was in, I'm
that all the
thinking,
time.
what's going on here? Why are we talking about a number? What are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, I'm the deputy speaker, so I'm all-knowing, and they'll come up to me in this passionate rush. What about 532? I'm like, it's a little late for me. I don't know what that means.
Right.
No, and
What was
I
it last year? There was over 1,000 bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how are you going to keep track of those numbers?
No, never. Well, I need one of those earpieces so I can just have the chief of staff tell me what.
A Biden earpiece?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
Tell you
kinda-
what, there's days I want one.
Yeah, I'm sure. So did you find it little testing this year, as far as a little testy with how close everything was with the committees? They were even committees, 10 on this side, 10 on the other. Do you think, I mean, I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that were our committee members sticking it out all day so that, if there was something going on, they
In
could
committees? Yeah, we don't have any trouble with that.
Yeah, and executive committees too.
If we get down one in a committee and we don't know about it, it's rare.
Well, you assign somebody too.
As long as we know the day
Right.
before.
Right.
Back in the day, they used to just have a room full of ringers they could send out.
Yeah.
From an administrative standpoint, I love subs. Because when you send a sub to a committee, their job is to keep their mouth shut and vote the way they're told.
Yeah, exactly. My first year I did that. I subbed a few times with Dick Hinch, and he said, but you got to vote this way. I said, I know nothing about what's going on, so I'll just follow our people. I have no idea.
I tell the vice chairs to give the substitutes literally a list. They're like, well, can't they just follow my vote? Sure, if they don't cough or sneeze while you're voting and miss it. So it's not hard.
It's
You're
nice
hearing
to
10
have
bills, just give them a list.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you could say, no, I've seen the list. I can't sit in. I can't go along with this.
But
I
has
need
it
to
gotten
assign somebody else.
testy? Yes, but I don't think it's a result of it being close. I think we have way too many representatives now who spend too much time watching politics on TV from D.C. and think that's how it should work here. And, this is different.
That's a good point.
I started out that way. I was a troublemaker when I started. Nobody else would have done it otherwise. And, I'm going to set the world on fire. And I'm going to right all these wrongs. And the enemy, they're evil. And then my very first committee day, I went, holy crap. I got to sit in this room with these 19 other people for 2 years. Maybe I ought to settle down and try to get along.
Right.
Not enough people are doing that now.
They're not
they
doing
just
it anymore.
see the enemy.
Yep.
My opponents are not always my enemies.
Right.
And sometimes you can find allies among your opponents on some things.
Exactly.
So
It'd be nice we went back to that, but I don't see that coming.
No, and there's some good examples on both sides. I'll call one out. You remember Peter Leishman?
Yes.
He is from the Liberal Republic of Peterborough. He is a Democrat, and he doesn't vote with them 100% of the time. Because of that, they're mad at him. I think he's got a primary going. Again, why waste it? Because Peter is a good, decent guy who listens to an argument, then makes up his mind. People know that, and they're going to keep voting for him.
Sure.
So, yeah, more people should be Peter.
Yeah.
So are you seeing that on both sides? Are you seeing a lot of the GOP legislators be just as feisty like that and not letting it go?
Yeah. Oh, the other side, they're Marxists, they're Leninists, and socialists. You just said three things that literally don't mean a thing to me. Tell me how they're wrong. That's how you defeat bad ideas.
Well, that's it.
Yep.
We've got an entire generation of folks who have been taught that when you don't have an argument, you start name calling.
Well, or they'll call you a rhino because you actually sat down with a Democrat and had lunch with them. I mean,
we used to do that. You know what? Until 2 terms ago, we had a smokers lounge in the bottom of the legislative office building.
Yep. I remember
Best thing that ever happened because there were smokers on both sides.
You start chit-chatting.
You're in there for, I mean, a quick smoker, 5 minutes burn time.
But if you're Al Baldessar or me, a cigar takes you a little bit longer.
Oh, who's I got? Walter. Those things were nasty.
Well, yes.
Oh. Yeah, and Democrats would come in. You're all in it together. So that's like a psychological thing at first.
Yes.
And then, bills will come up, and you can actually have a talk, and nobody wants to get anybody mad because I want to enjoy my coffee and my cigarette before I leave.
No, you're absolutely right.
I don't know how to force that these days. You can't make everybody smoke.
I feel like the slim margin we have contributes to it some. I think if we go through an election cycle and we gain a margin, right? Let's say we gain 60%. We're 60-40 in the legislature, right? I mean, that's not huge, but it's enough of a margin that we can set the tone for the future sessions. You know what I'm saying? If you start setting the tone and any of the freshman Democrats and freshmen come through, okay, here's the tone, guys, right? We've got a majority and we're going to set the tone and we're going to try and keep that tone session after session. I think that's what we need to do. I think the fact that we're split adds to that you're a Marxist and you're a racist, back and forth.
You white supremacist.
If we can get the House to a margin, a respectable margin, would be nice if it was a veto-proof margin.
We haven't had too many of those.
But get it to a respectable margin and then set the tone during that session, and hopefully that carries over.
Yeah, I don't ever want a supermajority again.
So.
Because when you can do anything you want to do, you do.
Yep.
And that's just never good.
Yeah.
And it didn't go
and
well.
It certainly showed the next
power
year,
corrupts.
Next time. Yeah.
So.
We had the biggest Republican loss in the nation in 2012.
Yep.
120-something Republican House seats were lost nationwide, and most of them were here.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right, we are at the end of our time. Let people know how they can get a hold of you if you want them to.
Thanks for asking. I have a website. It is steve4nh.com, steve4nh.com. My contact information's up there, and you can also look me up on the House website. As a deputy speaker, I'm not hard to find.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks.
All right, we'll see you next week.